Hope you enjoyed your break. Just going to go back to this fish, H, catching this fish. I mean, in the early days when I was carp fishing, one of the things that we were really superstitious. I mean, a lot of carp anglers are. I think it's waiting for long periods of time for action. You do anything to catch a carp, wouldn't you? You know, you've got your lucky jumper and all stuff like that, which I've always used, one of my favourite things in carp fishing. But one of the things that we used to do was carving the names of fish on our baits. Now, it's a bit far-fetched, I know, but it's something we used to do. And every bait that we used to roll, we used to inscribe the name of the fish using a baiting needle. And this is a true story. Before I caught this fish H, I was after this fish, and I would try, hook and crook, I wanted to catch him. Whatever it come to, you know, I really wanted to catch this fish. And this is gospel truth. Just before I caught like this session, the week before we were fishing in another part of the lake. And me and Tony decided to move up this end of the lake this week because it was getting really hot and the weed was growing. The weed was getting thick all across the front of the swim. So we knew the fish would be coming in there. And what I've done, I rolled 60 egg mix, all by hand, you know, like really sort of all 22mm boilies or whatever they were, you know, rolling them 2 at a time, 24mm, and every single bait had H inscribed on it. And I mean, there's a lot of work involved in that. And this fish was caught with a bait as well that had H inscribed on it, and every bait I used at that time. I mean, that's pretty mad, isn't it? But that's the sort of things we used to do. I mean, I caught big bollocks as well with BB written all over the bait, you know, and we used to bait up. I mean, we used to bait up with boilies looking like a pair of nuts and a dick, you know, pull them out for big bollocks. I mean, you know, but I think we just had too much time on our hands. Again, this is a lovely carp. I mean, I love these tip lake fish. I look back at them now and I see, you know, we all see Carp Talk every week and we see all these, and there's just something about these tip lake fish. They just blow me away every time I look at them. You know, they're not monsters in regards to the size of fish that are around today. You know, people nowadays, they can catch a 20-pound day, it's not the same, but these fish are really special in my eyes, they always will be. This was caught out of Booker's Bend, one of my last trips on Darren. I got a Longfield ticket. Me and Jeff Bowers, who run Premier Baits at the time, we sat down one night, we was in the Checkers pub at Darren. You know, he was buying me a couple of beers, I could never afford a beer in them days. And we started talking, and we'd just seen that the famous five had a few fish out of Longfield. The famous five being Dave Wigley and Rob, Stevie Alcott and people like that. David had a couple of nice fish out of Longfield that year, and we decided that no one had ever used fish meals on Longfield, not our type of fish meals, which were like really oily sort of thing and mixed with a bit of 90 mesh KC. So we decided, let's get on Longfield and use this bait. No one's done it over there. We knew Rob and everyone were using bird foods over there, and we knew some of the lads that were fishing it, like Dave Moore, another Yorkshire lad, and people like that. They were using bird foods. We decided we'd go over here and use a fish meal. So this was one of my last trips on Darren. I had 7 fish out of Booker's over a few days, over a bed of baits. This was the following year. This was the year I fished Longfield, start of the season. This was a good catch up. Remember this one? I was always looking for an edge, always looking to find a new spot, find something different, just stay in front. Anyway, I kept seeing this fish coming in close, down to me right. I got up a tree, I could see a little hole in the weed, so I started throwing a few baits in there. Every couple of hours I'd get up the tree and I'd see the baits are disappearing, they kept disappearing. So I threw a few more baits in there and they kept disappearing. So I thought, right, that's it. I reeled one of my rods in, I flipped it down to the right in a little hole, got up the tree, could see everything perfect. And the next time this fish come in, it had a big surprise. It was me. So this was a great catch. Always remember this capture. Again, this is another proper old slate grey mirrors they were. Proper slate grey mirrors. Quite a deep, short one, this one. I mean, this fish here, I used to call him the one with the big pecs. And also he had a forked barbel. If you can see here, he's got like a fork, his barbel, but his pecs are absolutely insane. They're so big, his pecs. you can see it just sort of pretty much covers the length of his body. And did he fight? He had a towel, a massive towel. I had him a number of times, and every time I hooked him, you just knew, you just ripped 50 yards of line off you. I mean, in these days, the tackle we were using was light in comparison to what people use nowadays. I was using on the tip like 1 pound, 1 3/4 pound test curve rods, Northwesterns, you know, 155 reels, 11 pound seal casts, but always never had a rod. I mean, if you used a 2 pound test curve rod, in my eyes, you was a brute, you know, you was going to rip their heads off. I mean, to people to use threes, I wouldn't talk to you. If you used the three, I wouldn't have talked to you. You know, it was 1.5, 1 3/4 pound test curve rods, that's all we ever used. And this was a good mate of mine that used to fish Darren, Hippie Paul. Some of you might have known him from Yateley. If you ever fish Yateley, Hippie Paul went on there, he was a good angler. He'd done a lot of time, Paul. It was 3 hippies at Darren. He was one of them. Good angler, and I loved his fish. Paul showed me this fish. I said, Paul, I've got to have that picture. That's coming in the slideshow. I've never caught that fish. One of the fish I never caught out the tip, and absolute cracker. When we fished the tip, we had a couple of mates on there, Steve Briggs and a couple of other lads, Pete from Brighton, and they got banned in the late 80s, Steve did. Loads of lads got banned from Darren from the late 80s. They used to go up the pub and leisure sports in them days who run the lake used to raid it in the night. And Steve and all them got banned, and they all went and fished Johnson's, which was a really famous lake. I remember, if a lot of you would have read Carp Strikes Back, Fred's Country, Fred Wilton, Johnson's Lakes. And they were rock hard lakes. Now when we fished Darren, we used to speak to all the Kent boys. All the Kent boys would say, look, you go to Johnson's, you're not going to catch, it's proper hard. It is rock hard. Anyway, we're like, yeah right, we can catch anywhere. And we went there and we didn't catch, we struggled. And it was proper rock hard. We done 30 nights, me and Tony. We were the first ones on there with a fish meal. We done 30 nights over the period of the summer. Steve and everyone was there, and they were all blanking, and I'll tell you, everyone blanked. The people on there at the time were people like John Carver, Johnny Allen, Brian Mills, loads of well-known anglers, Ian Brown, really good angler Ian Brown, taught me a lot, he was a great angler, and there was so many good anglers, and literally every swim on Johnson's would have 5 rods in it, like everyone would have 5 rods and a boat in those days, and it was rock hard. Anyway, we did manage to catch 2 or 3 fish in them 30 nights, and this was one of them. The floppy tail mirror is a picture of this in Basil's bush. Rob and that went on there after us, a year or 2 after us, and there's a picture of this fish in Basil's bush, but Tony caught, and that's Tony's dad there. He's dead now, old Ted, but he's a good man. He used to always bring us food and everything. But what a cracking mirror. And it's a bit of a mad one. You're going to see this fish again later on in the slideshow, so remember it, but an absolute cracker. And we went there with we went there like peacocks, you know, we were picking and slaying. We slayed everywhere we've been. We went to Johnson's and we struggled. And the thing was, we were putting loads of fish meals out there and we were expecting it to happen. But then our confidence took a massive knock. There was an angler called Nidge who used to fish a tip, but he got into scuba diving. And he turned up one day and he went down on the bottom and he found all our bait sitting there. And we've been sitting over it for weeks. And in the end, we started using sweet corn on the tops of the bars, and that's how we were catching them. The old sweet corn. Then all of a sudden, I got my ticket for the magic place, for the magic lake, Longfield. Some of you might know it here. A great looking lake. I heard someone say Longfield just now, but what a lake. The first time I went over there was on my birthday, my 19th birthday. I never had a car, and Graham, who took me to the Cambridge lake we were talking about earlier, he had the day off work. Yeah, Jimmy Saville. He took me over there, had a big cigar. He had his hand damage. No, he didn't have his hand damage trousers. I wouldn't let him do that. Anyway, so he took me there, and we went to Longfield for the day. We spent the whole day there, but you know what? Being me, I took the 24 egg mix. It was in the close season. I didn't tell him what I was going to do, but then I baited it up. All massive big donkey chokers covered in fish oil. And we walked round all day, April the 20th it was, 1989, and I baited up big. But then from then on, I went over there every single week. I was getting trains all across London, getting to Victoria, then another train, and I was going to Longfield every week and baiting up with these fish meals, because I knew that we were going to catch. But the thing was, the first couple of times, well, the first time I went down there, the first time I went down there, one of the first anglers I met was this man. I'm sure you all met him before, know him, Rob. And he walked into my swim and I had a massive big bed of fish meals on the floor and I've been rolling them all morning. It was my first trip on Longfield. I think it was my second day. And Rob come along and he just looked at my bait on the floor and he just shook his head and went, "You ain't gonna catch. We've tried it," you know. But what he didn't know, we were using something totally different. But at the time I was using fish meals, but I was putting Robin Red in them. I was putting loads of Robin Red in them. So they looked like bird foods. And they were all on the floor, and the bag I was using was a haystack with a Robin Red in it. So Rob has looked at the bag, looked at me bait on the floor and gone, "He's using bird foods, loads of them, he ain't gonna catch, we've tried it." Anyway, the next morning I had one. But this was the first fish I see out of Longfield. This was the second day I was there, just met Rob, we had a little chat, he told me I was gonna blank forever. And he walked off, and a little while later he caught this, what a fish. He caught it on a mixer. At the time he said it was shoulders. He said, "Oh, it's shoulders, I've got shoulders, I've got shoulders." So I went round there, Bernie Loftus, he was another one on the bank. We woke him up, we went and got him, and I didn't know the fish in Longfield at all. And we thought it was shoulders, but it wasn't, it was a hardtail mirror. We found out a couple of days later. But absolutely, I mean, the first carp I see out of Longfield, and that was it, I was hooked. This lake, do I want to catch these carp? Of course. I did, in my first few trips at Longfield, I suppose, for there, everyone told me I weren't going to catch, I'd done really well. I had 6 fish. I had 6 fish in about 4 weeks, which was 4-week sessions. I suppose there's a lot of time, but still out of there, 1 fish a season I was told was going to be brilliant. And I had 6 fish over a few trips, and this was one of them. I had 3 in a weekend out of there, and this was my personal best common. 23 pound or something, 22, 23 pound, absolute stunning common. Was I happy? I caught 2 20 pound commons that weekend. I'd only ever had 1 20 pound common. I mean, they were absolutely like rocking shit when I was a kid, and all of a sudden I caught 2. Apparently this fish is still alive, and it's in Horton, and it's named Sid. So Nick Elliott told me the other day. But again, when I caught this, it was so mint. I caught it out of the Royal Box swim, and I was happy as anything. I caught 3 that weekend, and was I made up? The icing on the cake come for me. I never thought I was going to get one of the big uns, because I knew that it was going to crash. Everyone said to me, it was a funny thing, Longfield, you either caught on your first trip, and then you'd catch on your first trip, and then you would never catch again. Or you'd have to wait like 3 years for a run, and it was like that. It really wasn't a hard lake. Like, I mean, that year I fished it, I only got a short spell there, but I hardly see anyone catch, and so many people were doing loads of time, like 10-nighters, constantly. But this fish came on my 4th week. I'd been baiting in a swim called the middle swim. It was about the only swim where I could easily get a rod in the water. The weed was so bad. The weed was really from top to the bottom, pretty much nearly all over the lake. And I went in the middle swim and I found one of these little mushrooms. What they used to say, I mean, I didn't know at the time they were little mushrooms, it wasn't until they drained it down. But I found this little spot and I started baiting it, and I was baiting it, and I was baiting it, and I was fishing on it, and I'd been on there 5 nights. And the fish were jumping all over me for 3 days. Every day I was rolling a 24 egg mix. I tried something different. I always used massive boilies, 22, 24 mils. This week I've rolled loads of little uns. They were all like 14 mils, 12 mils. I was rolling them by hand. It took me hours and hours. But I thought I'd try something different. And I filled in this spot. It was only close, and the fish showed on me for days and days and days. And then the first morning come when they never showed on me. There was not 1 fish showing, and I thought it was the end. I thought, that's it, I've missed my chance. I'm never going to get one of these big uns out of here. You know, and then all of a sudden, my rod went, and for 20 minutes, this fish was weeded up, and I was shaking like a leaf. I was walking up the bank, biting my nails, shaking like a leaf. Oh no, what's going to happen if I lose this fish? You know, it could be forever. I'll never get another one again, never get a chance. Because Longfield was like that in those days. And in the end, I started to try and hand line it. And I was putting the rod I was using that year was a 26-ounce Bruce and Walker. So it was only a soft rod, 26-ounce Bruce and Walker rod. I bought 2 of them off Jeff Bowers. Anyway, I was pulling it, my rod was bent into the butt, so I started hand lining it. And all of a sudden, this massive weed bed's come up to the surface, and I started moving it. So I got the rod back up again, and I'm pumping it in, and in the end, I got this rod, this weed bed, I mean, it must have been the size of a car, a big car, and it was in front of me, it was massive, all Canadian. Anyway, I started ripping it all open, and in the middle was this fish. Obviously, it's not in the net. Then it screamed off out into the lake, and the water in Longfield was tap water, and I could see his big orange belly. I knew what fish it was, and I was crapping myself. I was just thinking, this is it. And in the end, I got him in, but when I eventually got him into the net, I was nearly drowning. I was in the water, because I had to get into the water. There was no way I could have netted him through that weed. So I jumped into the lake, and I was pulling him up into the top of the weed bed, and eventually I got my net underneath the weed bed, and he was in the net. And there was only one angler on the lake at the time, one other angler, and it was an angler called Peter. He used to be in a band called the Motley Hoople. I don't know if you remember the Motley Hoople from the 60s, they're a very famous band. All the young dudes, they used to sing. Anyway, Pete was really eccentric. He used to fish with pink rods, and he used to have a long scarf. He used to look like Doctor Who. And where I was from, I was from East London, you know, I was rough and ready council estates. He was totally different to how I knew, but he was a lovely man. And he come around and saved my life, because I was pretty much drowning with that fish in the net. I was in 15 foot of water, smothered in weed, with him in screaming, like, and Pete come round, he grabbed the landing net pole and dragged me out. When I caught him, I was absolutely blown away. I put him on the scales, I weighed him, he was 42 £. I put him in a carp sack, I swam 20 yards down the margins, through a load of trees, and tied him to some roots so no one could get near him. You know, I just thought, I'm never going to let anyone get near this fish. You know, so from then on, I got out of the water, and then I literally floated to the phone box, I swear, all the way down past Raysbury Village. There was a little phone box. I ran in there, and I phoned up my mate, and I said to him, I got a fish, I got a 40. Anyway, he's going ecstatic. Then I phone my dad, and I tell my dad to go and get all the boys over Hainault Forest with all their cameras. Go to Hainault Forest, get everyone, fill the car up, get all the cameras and drive here as fast as you can. I never even had a camera. When I was fishing Longfield, I never had a camera. You know, I mean, in them days, I couldn't afford film anyway for half of the cameras. A lot of fish I caught, I never got pictures of, which is sad, but that's the way it is. Anyway, luckily enough, as I come walking back from Raysbury, I see Chris Ball. At the time, Chris Ball was fishing on Raysbury. And Chris Ball was fishing on Raysbury at the time, and I shouted out, Chris, I've got one. But the day before, I had another fish. The day before, I caught a blind common, 12 £. I stalked him. And Jan, who was Chris's partner, fishing partner, Jan, he went, oh no, Jan told me you had one yesterday, 12 £. I went, no Chris, I've got 42 in the sack. And that was it, you know. Chris come down, he had a video camera. But the thing was, with this fish, when I caught it, I never wanted to catch another fish after this. That was it. You know, like if someone climbs the biggest mountain in the world, when you climb the biggest mountain in the world, you don't really need to climb another mountain after that. And that's how I was when I caught this fish. And you can see why. I was just absolutely blown away. I mean, I was floating. I mean, I still am now, really, I suppose, 24 years later. It was totally blown away. I never needed to catch another fish again. You know, I went home from that trip. I went to Hainault Forest to see all my mates, and I was just floating. I went and got my pictures done, because Pete, who was in Motley Hoople, he got a film for me. He'd done a whole film. Chris got me some pictures, luckily enough. But I still ain't come down from catching that one. From then on, I didn't really know where I wanted to fish. If I did want to fish anymore, I'd really done it. I'd climbed to the top of the tree, I'd caught fish from all over, I'd had 30s, I caught the big Hainault fish, all the tip lake fish, all the Darrant fish, and I didn't really know where to fish after that. Everyone was saying to me, why don't you go and fish the North Lake at Yateley? But one of my best mates was fishing it at the time, Terry Dempsey, and I said, no, I don't want to go and jump on tail, because I know he's using the same bait as me. So I didn't know. But then I decided to come back to Longfield and have a go for this fish. A fish called big scale. I'd seen him in the goose pool a few times, and he was absolutely looked immense in the water, and I really fell in love with him, and I just wanted to catch him so much. Here he was in his last capture at Longfield. So that was it. I was back on Longfield. Now I'm trying to catch big scale. The first trip back, I see this one on the back, and old Bernie catching the lady, and that was Bernie's first fish of the season, and he fished really hard to catch that fish, and as you can see his face, he's blown away again. And what a good looking carp the lady was. He caught this out the big noddy swim. I remember seeing him jumping up and down and running about on the bank like a lunatic, and I knew straight away he's had one. Like, you know, this was about September, October, it was his first fish of the year, and that's what Longfield was like. It was proper rock hard. And then all of a sudden, I was fishing it, and then this is what happened to my lake. Absolute devastation. It was around Christmas time, and we'd had news that Stevie Alcott had caught a big brace out of Longfield. And I couldn't get there that week. I couldn't afford to get there. And I was planning on going down there in January, because I was fishing it in the winter. I carried on fishing it all through the winter. I wouldn't have minded how hard it was. And then this was unbelievable. Me, two of my mates, there's three of us in the car, Tony and Andy, we drove down there just after New Year's, and there was a load of big blokes standing at the gate. And they were big burly blokes, like, you know, looked like bodybuilders or whatever, sort of bouncers. And we sort of stopped up and said, like, oh, we just want to go through. And they went, what do you mean you want to go through? Where are you going? We're going fishing, this is our lake. You know, this is where we fish. And they went, no, you don't fish here no more. And that was it. They nicked all our fish. Leisure Sports decided, they told us that it was going to be a marina for rich yachts, because just through over here is the River Thames. There's a lot of big houses here, and that's what they said to us. But anyway, it wasn't. They wanted to put the fish in Horton. I'm not too sure why, but obviously they knew. And then that was it. That was my Longfield, my dream lake, finished. I was absolutely devastated when this happened. And so, not just me, there was a load of us. And we all vouched never to fish Horton. That's what we all said at the time, and I never did fish Horton. At the time, everyone sort of said, look, if they move these fish, we never fish for them again. And that was it. That was the end of our dream. And you can see, just by looking at these, their faces, the way they are, you know, we were just all walking around in shock, absolute shock of what was going on in front of us. You know, and the fish, even to the last minute, the Longfield fish didn't give up. They just couldn't net them. They were chasing them around the lake, and I think one day Bernie was down there and they was netting the fish, and one of the fish jumped over the nets, and Bernie's going, yes! Go on, get away, because that's what we wanted. We didn't want them to get them. But they did, as you know, and that was that. There's my mate Tel. He's done a good chapter in my book, Tel. I've asked him to do something a bit different, because I like doing, you know, some different stuff. And he's written about a lake called Fordwich in Kent, which is a really lovely lake. And here is Tel with Heather the Leather, one of his first ever captures at £38. I think this was about 87 when Tel caught this. Here's another absolute beautiful carp. I'm sure you'll all appreciate this one. It's my mate Dick Hughes sitting over the back there with the books. And this is out of Friday's Lake. And this was a very hard lake. I only done 1 or 2 nights on here. I know Dickie done a bit of time on here, but it was only half a dozen fish. It was a bit like Longfield, very deep, very weedy, and really hard. I think even some years, you know, not one carp got caught out of this lake. Some years, that's how sort of hard it was anyway. Here it is Dickie, a 42-pound, absolute mental looking fish. I think there was only an handful ever captures of this fish. And going back onto a lake that's always been close to my heart. This is Johnson's, picture of Johnson's, the railway lake, absolutely beautiful with all the pads and everything. Sort of around, this is coming forward a lot now. This is probably late 90s. I've just had my first daughter with my girlfriend. We had a young daughter, and I didn't have a lot of time. And I really was into my fishing again. I'd sort of stopped fishing for a few years, and then I started up after Longfield, and then I stopped fishing, and then I started up again, and I really got into it again. I was thinking, where can I go? And I started to get into Raisbury. I started fishing Raisbury 1. But I realised I just never had the time. I was only sort of getting half a day a week, or one night a week, and Raisbury was a little bit daunting at the time for that sort of time. There was people living over there. It was in the days when Mary was in there, and there was a lot of people doing a lot of time on there. But I was really into Raisbury, but I just couldn't fish it. Just never had the time, so I started having a look at Johnson's again. And every time I've been over Johnson's, all my life, I just loved the lake so much. And it was great to be back. But I decided 2 things when I fished it, that I wasn't going to do any nights on there, and I was going to fish it totally different from everyone else. Everyone was doing loads of time, fishing boilies, and I just thought, right, my 2 favourite baits are mixers and sweet corn at Johnson's. That's what I caught them on in the past, and that's what I started to use. So I started baiting up over there. I was fishing corn in the margins and mixers across the surface, and literally putting dustbinfuls in. I was going down there and putting like a dustbin full of corn in the margins, and then I was putting a dustbin full of mixers in the snags, just getting the fish on the bait. And this is the fish that I went back there for. This is the old Johnson's leather, which is a famous old fish, been in loads of books and been about for years. I was a bit unlucky, I was saying unlucky, I can't really say that because it's such a cracking fish, it made so many people unhappy, but within a couple of weeks of me going back over there, this old fish was seen not looking too well. This is my mate Ronan holding it, a 40 pound, the only time it ever got for caught 40, this was, and you can see what a carp, and it died, just as I got back into my fishing over there, the old carp died. But there was so many other good fish in Johnson's. I just wanted to stay there and have a few of these mirrors because they just really are special. And this is the first one I've got. I had him on the mixers, off the surface. And what I was doing, I was going down here and I was doing a similar thing to what I was saying earlier. I was feeding the birds. I was going to Tesco's and I was going to buy all their cheap bread. I was getting like 10 loaves of bread. And I was going to buy 10 sacks of mixers out of Lidl's, which is like £1 a sack or whatever, they're so cheap at Lidl's. And I was going down there and I was drifting the whole of it across the lake when the lake was empty of other anglers in the midweek. And I was walking back down the other end, netting it all, like wading up to my chest, netting it all, then walking it right back up the other end, letting it drift across again. And I just kept doing this until I had them really feeding well. And this fish all of a sudden just started having big lumps of crust off the surface and everything. And it was amazing really how I got him going. Anyway, I had him first cast. And cracking old mirrors, the scaly mirror. He's still alive now, this fish. He's an ancient carp. This was the first one I got on the sweet corn. Again, while I was putting the mixers out, I was getting 2 or 3 little spots going on the corn in the margins. There was one little spot, and it was like a little shelf, and it was about 6 foot of water over the top of it. It was gin clear, and I could just peek my head through the bushes, and I'd just see me patch of corn. What I was doing with the corn, I was putting it at the bottom of the ledge, so I could just about see it. Where it's a bright bait, I was just putting it out of view from other anglers, so they couldn't see it clearly, but I knew it was there, and if I glanced at it quite hard, I could see it on the bottom. Anyway, this day there was a big patch of yellow corn down there, and as I peeked my head through the bushes, I could just see this dark shape over the top of the corn, just shading it. And I got a couple of little bits of sweet corn in there, and a little while later I caught this fish. This is how the Johnson's carp were. I caught many commons out of there. They were red mire commons. They all come from red mire originally. Mr. Johnson got them, I think, through Barry Mills and so. But they're just jet black. They really are the darkest fish. And you can see how dark they are. I mean, I caught quite a few commons out of there. They're cracking looking fish. So I fell asleep when I got this one. I had a long night. This was a bit of a mad capture. This was, you know, I'm a fishing addict, same as probably many of you. And my missus has had to put up with me for years and years and years. All my, you know, the lies I tell and everything. I just have to do it. Anyway, this day I went to get a pint of milk. I've been baiting up in this little bay for weeks, yeah, on mixers, and I've been getting them really going in close, really in close. And then one day, I just had this mad urge to go and do a couple of hours. So I just said to my missus, I said, look, I'm going to go down to Tesco's, I'm going to go and get some milk, and then I might just pop down the bank for half hour. Anyway, I jumped on the A20 from where I live, flew up to Kent, and the next thing I was standing by the lake shaking like a leaf, like you do, like a man possessed, like a heroin addict. Anyway, I've been baiting it for ages. The amount of mixers I put in there was unbelievable. And it was a good lake. The other anglers there were really nice blokes, and they just let me get on with it. I say, look, I'm going to fish there, and they say, get on with it, mate. I'm fishing over there, and I say, right, I'll just leave you alone. You leave, and brilliant. And that's how it was over there. They're good lads. Anyway, this fish was sitting there, waiting for mixers, cruising up and down, and I had him on a 3-line mixer. Anyway, the worst thing was though, when I did have him, I got him in the net and sacked him up and everything, and then I drove all the way home to get my camera, and then I had to go indoors and explain to the missus that I just caught one. And she thought I was in Tesco, so she knows what I'm like. It's another fish caught on the mixers. Again, you know, really I was just putting so many mixers, and I just kept recycling them. I just let them drift across the lake, and it was really hard fishing. It was the hardest fishing. Like for the 3 or 4 hours fishing that I was doing, the work, I was coming home, I was totally knackered, but I was just loving it. And I was just drifting, sack. But in the end, I just had them eating like mad. And one night, I'd done one night over there that season, and I'm a member of a club in the Carp Valley. And it was June the 16th, and I went down to my club, and the fish was spawning. They were going absolutely mad, so I thought, right, let's get over Johnson's. I got a whole night, and that night I floater fished all night, and I had probably every carp in the lake eating mixers all through the night, which was amazing. And all you could hear was them clopping all night, right by my feet, under my feet. And then I just net all the margins, walk up the other end, there was a little northerly wind blowing, and that's how I was getting them going, absolutely bananas. But this fish was a cracking old fish. This is called the scarred mirror. This was the fish, the main fish in the lake after the leather died was this one. This is a fish called single scale. It's still in there now. It's a very, very rarely caught carp, especially on the bottom. But again, this was on a mixer, £6 line, size 10 hook, and did he fight? I mean, I think he took about 100 yards of line off me when I first hooked him. I'd been feeding the swim for about 4 hours, and this fish, I'd really tricked him well. He was living in a snag. I found him living in a snag. I put so many mixers in the snag, he was just eating them wholesale, and I knew as soon as I find him in the main lake, he's going to carry on eating them. That was my plan, and it worked. I caught him up the other end, away from any snags, away from any weed, and he absolutely fought like unbelievable, single scale. Still in there now, hasn't been caught for 2 years, this fish, great looking fish. And there he is there, putting him back. You know, it was a dream for me to catch a big one out of Johnson's, because when I fished it when I was 16, 17 years of age, we did struggle over there, and everyone was struggling, so to catch one out of there really was something special. I spoke to a lot of people over the years, and they all said that Johnson's was the hardest lake they've ever fished. You know, it really was. Even anglers who have fished on the car park, places like that, will always say, you meet them in the 80s, Johnson's was a very hard lake, and it was, in its time. This is old floppy tail, what Tony caught years ago when his dad was in the picture. Here it is again, 16 years later, the same fish. It was quite amazing, really. He had a funny way of taking mixers, Floppy. I got used to, there weren't that many mirrors in Railway, there was only about 10. So I used to know which fish was taking floaters, because they all took them totally different. And Floppy, I used to see, he used to come up and take them from underneath, like this. So I knew I wanted to catch Floppy, that's the fish I targeted. And I did, I had him on a mixer. And again, you couldn't even see him taking them. You just see this little swirl and you knew it was flopping. Every fish took the bait differently. You know, it was an amazing carp. And as I say, 16 years previous to that, I held him when Tony caught him. And here's Tony with one of the Railway fish as well. This one was called the Italian, and absolutely mental. Tony got a bit more time. I was only doing sort of a few hours. Tony was doing the weekends on there and baiting it with boilies in them days, and he absolutely ripped it. He caught so many fish. I think he's still got all the records over there now. Tony, I think he had about 22 fish that year, which is unbelievable for Johnson's. But as you can see, they don't come much nicer than that one. There's a picture of that fish in Basil's Bush as well. I think Phil Harper holding it, like £25 or something. Absolutely stonking carp. Another typical Johnson's carp. Going on to some of the lads in here know him, a few of the Raspberry boys know him. This is our famous tin pot. I'll see them all laughing up the back there. This is a famous old carp, what we all know about from the Carp Strikes Back. This is a thick head and ugly fish, is it? Carp Strikes Back. That's it, a thick head fish. Savate carp. In like sort of late 90s, Tin Pot was sort of breaking out of Kent. He's been fishing in Kent forever. And we said, me and a couple of my mates, we'd fished everywhere. We said, look, you've got to move on, you can't just fish here all the time. And he sort of said, well, where can I go? I said, well, I'll tell you one water that's a real good bet is Savate Days. Go and do the days on Savate. You know, anyone could have got a ticket in those days, and that's what he did. And they went on there, even his mate Chris, and they've written a good chapter in the book about it. But this is one of the fish that he caught. I think they caught 5 fish over 2 days out of the North Bay. You know, and this was one of them, £35. Absolute cracking fish. I mean, they really worked hard to get these fish. They're both really good anglers, Tin Pot and Chris, and they've really done well. They got them going in a swim called the Wanking Swim in the North Bay. I don't know why it's called the Wanking Swim, but I'm sure you can use your imagination. But anyway, they got them going in there. None of the Savate anglers were fishing in the Wanking Swim. It was totally overgrown, and tin pot typically going in there. No. Anyway, they go in there, they get them going on the bait, and they caught some fish. I think over 2 days they had 5 fish out of there on the days. I don't think anyone had a bite on the days for about 2 years, and they had 3 years. No one had a bite on the days for 3 years at tin pot, and they had 5 in a day or something, didn't they? All mid-30s, upper 30s, and they really ripped it. I remember him phoning me up, going mental on the phone. And there he is, later in the year, catching his first 40 out of Savay. I think it's one of the Claremont fish. Absolute cracker, he caught it off the point. Another lake that I absolutely love Savay. I fished Savay in the late 80s when Longfield closed. We started doing a few days over there. Really loved it. And then I went back the following year and fished it, but I didn't have a car and I was sleeping in the field over the back of the horse and barge. I was living in the field over there like a tramp. Pete Regan was looking after me. I was going over there, he was feeding me and that I think that was what blew me out really. I didn't fish for a few years after that, but it's one water I'd love to go back on. I've never caught a Savay carp. Tony did, but I never did. This is a water that I sort of fell in love with. This was in the days when Mary was in there. This is one of my early pictures when I first fished Raysbury. I think it was about 99 I first went over there. And this was fishing Bryant's Bay, as a lot of you know. And when I bought one of these dodgy boats, I mean, they are really dangerous. Anyone who fishes Raysbury using one of them boats, like, be careful. First time out on it, I just got nearly taken away, and, you know, really dangerous. But I just absolutely fell in love with this lake when I first fished it. I realised how hard it was. I first went there, I knew a lot of the lads who fished Longfield who were fishing it, and straight away they just went, this is a ball, this is a really hard lake. It's a ball breaker, this lake. There was only about 10 originals in there, or about 12 originals, 120 acres at the time, and there was a few red mire commons at the time. People weren't taking any notice of. But I didn't do many nights. I think it was the first couple of nights I was over there sort of doing what everyone else was doing with the boats, and then I realised I was absolutely useless on a boat and it was just spinning around out in the middle of the water, and I was more chance of dying than catching anything. But the first night I ever fished on Raysbury, just fishing properly, I hooked one, and it was Malins, and I lost it. And I was devastated. I was fishing in the North Lake, and there was a southeasterly wind blowing into Sunnymead, and I walked down there, and Jim Shelley was on the grassy point, and I walked right down the end, and I fished there anyway. 5 o'clock, I was sleeping on the floor. That's how I was fishing on there. All I had was a little bag, a little umbrella, like a little golfing umbrella, and 2 rods. And that's how I was fishing, or 3 rods, and I was just sleeping on the floor. And I had to take at 5 in the morning. This fish has just powered off, took loads of line off me, and I see it roll, and I could see it was a big chestnut-coloured carp. It had to be Malins, and it took me into a snag, kited into a snag. I ran all the way to Jim. It was about 300 yards. Got in Jim's boat. We rowed across. It was too late. I'd lost him, and the fish of my dreams I'd lost. And that was my 4th or 5th night on Raysbury. And I was devastated. And the thing was, at the time, I really had no time at all. My daughter was really young. I was sort of doing like 1 night, 2 nights a month on there. So a couple of years after that, I never went back to Raysbury for a couple of 3 years. I was fishing on my club lake. I didn't have the time to fish Raysbury. And one of my old mates, Perry, who I grew up with, is another East London angler. He started fishing Raysbury, and he caught this fish, the one I wanted to catch, Malins. As you can see, absolutely stunning. As soon as Perry caught that, I was I've got to get back over there, you know, even if it means a divorce, I've got to get back over there. It really was like that. And the next thing you knew, I was divorced. No. And here it is. This is a later picture of the pond. Absolutely mental lake, you know, just you can live there for the rest of your life as you do. I mean, I've been on there now, on and off, 13 years, and I can't see me giving up fishing that lake at the moment anyway. Absolute cracking lake. There's a picture of the old Dredger Bay. What I've done is, this is sort of where I realised I never had a lot of time, and you know, I had to change my approach. I couldn't fish how the other anglers were fishing. They were doing 3 or 4 nights, they were going out in a boat, they were baiting up spots, they were using glass bottom buckets. They were really ahead of everything what was going on, and there was a lot of good anglers on there, people like John Holt, You know, anglers like that, Nigel Stock, really top anglers, loads of them and all, not just them, loads of good anglers on there. And I really knew that I needed to up my game. I needed to do something different. So my plan was to fish it from the margins and just do bait up. Start doing what I've always done, which was baiting up, and started baiting up the margins. And one close season I went over here and I spent nearly every week, I was doing a day or two over Raysbury, just walking around the lake, checking out the margins, baiting up areas, keeping my eyes peeled and everything. Anyway, I didn't fish it that hardly that year, and for some reason or another I didn't hardly fish it. It wasn't until the following year that all the work that I'd done in the margins, walking around just in a couple of hours here and there, paid off. And that was with this common. That's my first fish out of Raysbury. It took me 3 years to catch a fish out of there, with a short time I had, but this was it. And it was a mad capture really, because I walked around the whole lake with a load of tackle that day, and I snapped a rod, which was typical for over there, because it's an absolute nightmare of a place to get on with. I snapped a rod down on the railway bank. I got round to the North Lake. As I'm going round the North Lake, this is gospel truth, this is in March. It was freezing cold that day, and I got into the corner, right down the corner in the North Lake, and I just looked down and there was a fish swimming past my foot, and I just thought, oh my God, there's a fish. And I've put some bait down there anyway, I've got a few fish feeding, and within a few hours I had this one in the net. And this fish is still in there now. I don't think it's been caught much since, has it, this one? A mental looking carp. I was blown away. And that was it. Once I caught one, I wanted to catch another one. And I was thinking, how am I going to get back over there? So I phoned up my missus and I say, look, I'll go home that day, can I go back over there in a couple of days' time? So she's agreed, I'll go back over there in a couple of days' time. There was a boat that was hidden away. It was sunk. It was sitting on the bottom of the lake bed. But it was my boat from a few years previous when I first fished over there. Anyway, I went and fished it out. Perry showed me where it was. And I fished this boat out. It took me about 2 hours to get all the water out of it. It had so much crap in it, it was unbelievable. Anyway, then I get in the boat and I start rowing all around the lake. Now I've caught this fish, and now I want to catch another one. I want to get an original out of there badly. You know, I've been on there a little while now. You know, I've done a few hours, I've done so much walking around, I've worked so hard. So I'm rowing all around the lake. Then all of a sudden, I'm going through the finger bays and I see 2 fish. And I see a little gravel bar and I bait that up and I get my rod in there. And then at 1 o'clock in the morning, I hear a massive crash right over the rod, and I'm just sitting there, and it was the most atmospheric night. The clouds were so low I couldn't touch them. You know, they were really, the clouds were literally in my brolly. And I was just sitting there thinking, this is going to happen. This fish just crashed right over my rod. I'm going to have one. And then all of a sudden, it ripped off. I had a take, and it was this one. I played it, the fight of the fish was unbelievable. It hit the surface and just started going mental across the surface. So I was so, you know, I knew it was a good one, and then all of a sudden it was so dark I could see this big white belly like kiting around in front of me. Anyway, after a long fight I got in there and I knew what fish it was. It was only 1 or 2 fish. In those days it was only about 4 or 5, you know, decent mirrors in there at the most, and I knew it had to be this one, the pug. 40 pounds, 12 ounces, my first original out of Raysbury, you know. I hadn't done many nights, and I'll tell you what, I was on such a high. It was unbelievable. I put it in the sack, I rowed across to the North Lake. My mate Darryl was fishing there. This was in the middle of the night, and I just shook his sleeping bag. I went, you gotta wake up, you gotta wake up. You know, and anyway, we got the photos done in the morning, and was I buzzing. But typical to Raysbury, it's always going to come back and kick you in the nuts, like it always does. And a couple of weeks later, I decided my next trip was going to be over there soon, and I'm going to start baiting up again. Anyway, my dad had a new car, it was a Mondeo, and he was abroad for some reason, and he phoned me up and he said, son, can you come and pick me up tomorrow at Heathrow Airport at Terminal 3? I said, Dad, of course I can, and I thought, that's perfect, I can go and bait up. Raysbury's like 2 minutes away. So anyway, I drive down there, I get there 2 hours before my dad's flight's coming in. I parks up in the dredger bay, I gets out on the boat and I start rowing out to the little spot in the finger bays that I was baiting up where I caught this fish. While I'm out there, I heard about 2 or 3 bangs. Don't know what it was. Anyway, when I got back to my car, they shot all the windows out, gypsies. shot every window out my dad's car. Now this is my dad's new car, I'm picking him up at Heathrow in half hour's time and he ain't got no windows. So I was in bits, and so was my dad when he sees his car. Anyway, my love affair with Raisbury stopped again, you know. After that, I just thought, how can I go and sit over there, you know? My missus is going to go, man, we can't afford new windows for cars and stuff. But the following spring, it weren't that season, I never fished it again. The following spring, I thought, I'm getting back on there. And I went back, finger bays again. I thought, I'm going to start fishing that. I liked it in the finger bays, and here I was, as happy as Larry, fishing over a baited area. You know, I think it was in April, my missus was going on holiday and taking the kids with her mum for a couple of weeks. And I had a plan, I had a massive plan to get down Raisbury and do about 10 nights. I had the time off work, everything was absolutely perfect, it was all running smoothly. I baited up the finger bays, I baited up the root swim, and I thought this is it. Anyway, the first night on the lake, this is after I've done 1 or 2 nights after my car windows got done. Anyway, I've gone back down there, this is the first night. I've got all my stuff, I'm all sorted out, I'm in the room, it was absolutely perfect. I'm thinking I've got 10 nights, I'm going to catch a Raisbury carp, definitely going to catch a Raisbury carp. My mate come along, he set up further down the bank. Just after dark, he said, "Tell, come and have a cup of tea." You know, this is in March, you don't expect nothing to going on, like it's in the spring, there's no one around. Anyway, I was down with him for about 20 minutes, I come back and nicked every bit of tackle. All my tackle was nicked. They nicked my rucksacks, everything. All I was left with was my brolly. They didn't even try to nick my bed chair. They nicked my food. As they tried to rip my bed chair out, I couldn't get it out. I could see how it had been left and they'd been trying to rip it out. And I was just thinking, this Raisbury lark's an absolute joke. You know, I'm trying to fish this lake and I can't. So the following day, I'm in bits. I ain't got no tackle. My missus is on holiday for 10 days. I've been looking forward to this trip for 6 months and I can't fish. So what I've done is I've borrowed tackle off everyone. But all the people who borrowed me tackle said to me, "Tell, don't go back over Raisbury and use it, because I want the tackle back," you know, which is fair enough. And I went to Johnson's. And this is what I caught. So it's all fake, isn't it? A few days later, I caught a big common out of Johnson's, you know, and caught a little bit of sweet corn on borrowed tackle. And if I would have had that, if the gypsies wouldn't have nicked all my crack tackle, which it was, absolutely crack tackle, I mean, they wouldn't have been able to sell it, no chance. And all of a sudden I've got all this new sparkling tackle, so you know what I borrowed off people, and I'm thinking to myself, what a result. And I'll get a big comment out of Johnson's, and it was on my birthday as well, which is even better. And here he is. But with Raisbury, you always go back for more. Don't matter how much punishment you've had already. Within a week or 2, I was back over there, making out to all my mates who had borrowed me tackle that I weren't going, and I did. On my way down there, I phoned up an old mate of mine who used to know from Longfield, Tetley. Anyway, Tetley had been walking his dog around Bryant's Bay that day, and he went, "Tell, guess what? All the fish were in Bryant's Bay. I'd just seen them, about 7 or 8 of them. It was a really hot day." I went, "Oh, brilliant, Tet. I'm on my way down there now. I'm going to have one, aren't I?" He went, "Yeah, you're going to have one. Get in the bay." So I get in the bay, and straight away I seen a fish really close, and I thought, oh my God, they're here, you know. And Raisbury, finding a fish on there is rock hard. You know, you can go weeks and weeks, not see a fish. All of a sudden, here they are, all in front of me. But then I see a really bad thing. There was a rod already in the swim in Bryant's, so I lost my swim. Anyway, I went right up the other end of the lake to fish, and in the night, again, it's all fate. I caught this one, Mary's mate. I couldn't believe my luck, you know. Again, if no one was fishing in Bryant's, I wouldn't have been in there. And I went all the way up the other end of the lake and I caught this fish. And I was absolutely, because this is the one I wanted. When I fished at Longfield, I read about it in a book. I used to go over Raisbury when I fished Longfield, and I used to have a look around in the swimming pool area and stuff like that. And I did see this fish. I don't know how big it was in them days, it was probably a big 20 or something like that. But I always wanted, out of all the carp in Raisbury, this is the one I wanted to catch. You know, it really is like, it's a picture card, isn't it, this fish? Absolute stunner. So long, unbelievable. Mad old picture of me pouring some water over him, spring water as always, for a Raisbury carp. There he is, putting him back in the water. Absolutely amazing catching, especially the short session. There was a 12-hour session, you know, getting him out on a short session like that. After having my gear nicked and having my windows done and everything, you know, I just thought, that's nothing, is it? Let them do it again. From there, I met a friend of mine who I hadn't seen for years, and he had a Sutton ticket, and I started going over to Sutton a little bit because of all this stuff that had been happening to me over Raysbury. Another mate of mine, Chris, he'd had his car smashed up over there as well, and I thought I've got to go somewhere else. So I started going over Sutton. Another lake in Kent, I'd never fished. I knew there was some good fishing there. It was totally different to what I was used to though. Over the last few years I've been used to big lakes, you know, over Sutton it was small, the fish were tricky, and you know, it was busy over there. And you was fishing against the other anglers more than the fish, I thought anyway. But my first night on there, me and my mate, we had six fish, and this was one of them. A cracking carp. This is a fish that I'd love to have caught. One of the only mirrors I see on the bank when I fish Sutton. I fished it only a short time. I couldn't get on with it, it was too small for me. But this is a fish called the brown fish. Some of you here probably would have known it. And an absolute mental looking carp. You know, I think this fish is such a weird lake, Sutton. It's tiny. It really is tiny. But these fish go years and years without catcher. And there is some great anglers, and there's rods in the water all the time. And for somehow, these carp go so long. I mean, look at his gob. I mean, this fish only gets caught once every 2 years, and it is an absolute beast. This was a courtesy of Raysbury, this one. I was down Raysbury one day, and I was in North Lake, and I was getting cut to pieces. I was getting stung to pieces, and it was one of them typical sessions down there where I was just thinking, what am I doing fishing this mad place? You know, it was really punishing me bad. And I just had a sensible idea for once. Pack up and go to Sutton. Fish somewhere normal. And there was a fella I knew, some of you might know him here, Mark. What he used to do, he used to use this like washing line rig. That used to go across the, you know, I think Terry Dempsey and that used to use it at Sutton, Savoy. Anyway, I'd never used it on Sutton, but I went down there this day and I could see these fish feeding right in this little corner, in this little margin. So I thought, right, okay, now let's have a little go at this. So I flicked my bait over there, I walked round it, I crawled up to it on my hands and knees, lowered my rig in the water, dropped half a dozen baits in there so they couldn't see it, and then I got a bank stick, an elastic band, and I just clipped up my line onto this elastic band, and then I used this like washing line right against the water, going right over the top of these fish. And it seemed a bit strange. I thought, oh, I don't know if I like this anyway. This went off 10 past 10. And £32 common, I was so happy. Cracking looking fish. All these Sutton fish are beautiful, really are them. For the amount of pressure on that lake, it is one of the mysteries in carp fishing, it really is. It's another beautiful Sutton common. This is the big common in Sutton, I love this catcher. I was walking around the lake, just pretty much on my hands and knees, creeping up to the edges and looking over, looking for signs. And one time there was a tiny little swim at the bottom called a chicken, and I crept up to it on my hands and knees, leant over, and I could just see the top of a towel just waving around in the water, top of a towel. So I got a bait and I crept up there and I lowered it right down slowly so he couldn't, well, I thought he couldn't see it, but he obviously didn't, because about 10 minutes later I had him in the net. And what a good looking fish that is. Again, another very rare fish. Some people say that's dead. But other people say it ain't dead, it just don't hardly come out, that fish. This is a typical sort of Sutton mirror, stunning. It's another nice little capture. I caught this one off the top of a lily pad. What I was doing, I was baiting the lily pads really heavily with mixers. I got in trouble over it. They was just saying, Dempsey, every time you come down here, the lily pads are full of mixers. But anyway, I got him feeding, and what I was doing, I was just getting a 3-line mixer, a single mixer, and laying it on top of the pad, and letting my line go along the side of the bank, and I was just sitting there waiting, and all you could see was this pair of lips coming up through the pads, and the mixers would slide down the pad into his mouth, and that's what happened with this one. I took quite a few fish out of Sutton doing this. I was going over there in the mornings and having a fish nearly every morning like it. And it was unbelievable. I really had them going mad. I mean, I was putting in 10, 20 kilo mixers in the pads. And I just had probably nearly every fish in the lake going mental. But absolute stunning looking carp. But this is another lake that I've got used to over the years. got a ticket for this. My good friend Dave Wibley, he got me a ticket for this, sort of about 7 or 8 years ago. For years I wanted a ticket for this lake, absolute cracking lake, very historical lake as well in carp fishing, and he got me a ticket in the end. When I started fishing it, as I first started fishing it, I was told that it was, it was really better to fish this lake in the middle, out in the middle of the lake, get baiting up out in the middle and stuff like that. But being as I am, I always try and do my own stuff, and I try not to follow. I always try and do my own stuff. I started baiting up in the margins. And a couple of areas, what I've done is I fished it similar to Raisbury. No one had ever really done it, I suppose. I used to walk around the lake and I used to bait up the margins. Really just bait them up, just really like filling them in with bait. And what I did is, what I used to see was baits disappearing. And one day I went over there in the winter and I'd seen some bait disappearing, and I fished a swim and I lost the fish, and I went back there the following week. Just doing one day. And I got this common, big common. But it was a brilliant capture for me, because I caught him just a few feet from the bank and I'd seen the bait disappearing on this spot, and all of a sudden I've got this big common. I was the only one on the lake at the time, and I was over the moon. I phoned up my mate Bob and I said, Bob, guess what, I've just had this lovely common, I'm really over the moon. And as I was talking to him, the same rod's gone again, off the same spot. This is that common again. It's a cracking fish, and I had this one. So now in half hour in the winter I've had this brace of fish, and I was pretty blown away by it. And again, just literally a few feet from the bank, a spot probably ain't been fished for donkey's years or never been fished, I'm not sure, but an absolute beast of a carp, cracking carp. And I'm not too sure where these stocking fish come from. They're not originals, but they really are nice looking fish. There's not many of them in there like this, there's a few. You see the colours of him, it's unbelievable. There's another one, Danny, you remember this one. My mate, it's an absolute beautiful carp. We called him the Black Mirror. He looked quite light there, but he was really dark on the bank, and the scale pattern was unbelievable on this fish. At the time I had him really going on the bait. I was fishing on the first bar, there was a little bar there, I was fishing on the first bar, and I really had him going, and Danny will tell you, like, I was hooking him really deep down in the throat. I had him going so well on the bait, I was getting bite off some boilies. And I took my mate over there one morning for a guest, and the night before I put 9 key of boilie on this bar, just with a little spot. It was only about 10 yards out, and I just done it with a little spot, 9 key of boilie. The following morning it was like a jacuzzi. The whole of the area was just like a jacuzzi. And I was hooking him it, but I took my mate, anyway, I'd had a take and I'd been bitten off. And I've never been bitten off before on a boilie. I've been bitten off on particle, but not on boilie. And it was definitely bitten off. I could see it was as clean as a whistle to cut. But then the following morning, I caught, I think it was this fish or another fish, and it was hooked so far down the throat, Danny had to come round with a longer pair of forceps, and we couldn't even see the boilie in its mouth. That's how confident I had him feeding over the bait. It's another fish. Some of these fish here, they're on here, they shouldn't have even been here. If you see them, don't tell anyone, yeah? Because they're all secret ones, these ones. I won't talk about them, you can just have a look at them. Let's take your time. Yeah, 5 minutes of eyes closing, everybody. This is a fish. There's a picture of this fish in the book. I caught this one 1991 on a guest. I was fishing there. Richard McDonald was fishing just further up the bank, and I was with my mate Nick. And I caught this fish, and they called this one Dempsey's fish after I caught it, because no one had ever seen it hardly. It's like a proper one of the old Sabo fish. It was a proper leany, this one, and I think it did go to about 45 pounds and died. You can see it's one of my favourite ever carp. You see the sort of gobs on these fish, incredible carp. Mind-blowing. But you've never seen these lads, okay? absolute beast. Caught this on the top, 40 pounder on the floater. This was a nice capture. I caught this one, I see Martin Lockie was fishing over there one day, and I went over there, I was supposed to be at work, and I said to my wife, I'm just going somewhere. Anyway, I had a rod hidden away in the back of the car. And when I went to the lake, it was typical. I walked down and I see this fish and another fish close in, right by the reeds, big fish, and I thought, my God. And I looked in and I didn't have no bait. I had a rod, but no bait and a net. So I run down to Lockie and I went, you ain't got an handful of boilies. He didn't even know I was there. I said, you ain't got a handful of boilies, have you? Anyway, about 10 minutes later, I shouted out, I had this one. In the net. And it's a right old beast. I've had him about 5 times, this fish. He likes a boilie. And but you can see he's a proper old dinosaur. This is an absolute perler. I don't think this one ain't been out for about 4 or 5 years. This old carp. He's an absolute beast of a carp. I caught him off that margin spot what I was talking about earlier. And you know, I mean, not many places you can catch an unknown 40 in this country. You know, but this is one of them. Totally unknown. I don't know anyone else who's ever caught that fish, and it's 42 pounds. I was up there, later on, a couple of weeks later, I went up there in the morning, and it was a pretty amazing, really. I got up there early, I fished on my spot. I hadn't been up there for about a week. The week before I put 10 key of boilie on this little spot. So I've gone up there, it's about 8 o'clock in the morning. You can only fish days on this lake and all, you're not doing nights. I was only doing 1 day a week, and I went up there early in the morning. And anyway, sitting there, can you go on the next one please? I was sitting there early in the morning, and all of a sudden, the rod's gone, innit? And I'm away, and I'm into this mental fish. It's battling like anything. It's tugging, ripping line off me. It's going absolutely insane, this fish. And I'm playing it for about half hour, and I really don't know how I got it in. But when I did get it in, I just looked and I just thought, oh my God, what have I caught? Look at that, that is just one of the maddest carp. Anyway, I was the only person on the lake that morning, and I see this fish in the net, and I was blown away. And anyway, I put him on the scales, and he's a colossal size fish, 47 pounder. So I put him in the net, and I phones up my mate on the comms, and I knew he's, sorry I shouldn't have said that word, should I? Anyway, I phones up my mate, and he says to me, what you got? I said, oh, I've got a big old lump in the net. So I'm not on the ponds, I'm on another lake. And he's gone to me, oh, I'll be down, give me half hour. I said, all right, I'll put it in the sack. Anyway, I put it in the sack, and he comes down, and we're just blown away. Me and him are just going, oh my God, what a fish. You know? Anyway, as we're photographing it, you can go back. Sorry. As we're photographing it, the other rod went, and I had this one, 41 pounds. So then I've got two good 40s in the net at the same time. And just blown away. Sometimes I wish that I'd done a double shot, you know, like the old Pete Springate shots. I wish I'd done that, but I didn't want to get chucked out of the club at the time, so I never did. But yeah, look at that, I mean, it's just probably one of the best carp around, still is. Getting back to Raysbury, this fish has been missing for years. So we know this one, this is my old mate Bob. And he's a good lad, Bod. He caught this one a few years ago, but it ain't been seen for years. I really would love to know that this fish is still in there. Out of all the fish that went in there from the Suttons, I did like this one the most. And it was a fish called sea scout. I love these scales around his belly. It's really odd they are. But you can see Bod likes pulling a funny face. It's Tony for his little bit of time that he done on Raysbury. He done really well, and here he is with an absolute cracking fish, Jacko's common. See, he's got a little fold in the bottom of his towel, and he caught this out the South Lake at Raysbury, and he hadn't seen a fish. He'd had a couple of days off work, he'd done 4 nights, and he hadn't seen a fish at all. And it was typical for there, like, you know, he was just no confidence at all, and then all of a sudden he just ripped off out of the blue, and he caught this fish. I think it was 38 pound 14 ounces in Jacko's common, which is absolutely insane. You know, it's such a fish. I've seen this fish on the bank this year, 39.12. Trevor catch it, and what a carp. You know, one of the oldest carp probably left in Calm Valley. Original commons. If you look in the Raysbury book, this one goes right back there. And I know there's a lad in this room who's caught it a couple of times, lucky man. Here's another old, ancient-looking carp, Tony with measles. Again, this is a mad catcher. I never had a lot of time, but I always used to go and see Tony because he's always been my best mate, and I always wanted to see him catch. So if I could help, I would. So one day I drove to Raysbury. He's fishing in the South Lake in the route. So I say to him, right, I'm going to go and find a fish for you, because he hadn't caught nothing. He'd been there a couple of nights. So I run all the way round to the North Lake, you know, all through all the treacherous ground, climbing through all the, getting cut to bits, and I sat in the North Lake all afternoon looking for fish for me mate, because that's how much of a good mate he is to me. So anyway, all of a sudden I start seeing a few fish. Oh my God, they're here, like, you know, then another one showed, then another one showed, and another fish showed. So I phones Tony up and I said, get your gear packed up, you're on them. There's loads of fish in the North Lake. You know, I've seen a few now. So anyway, he starts packing all his tackle up. I'm walking round the lake to try and get back to him. As he's packing up, he gets a run. He must have been the only fish in the South Lake. And he caught it, and this was it. Absolutely insane. Here he is, another happy smile, another Raysbury original. This is the floppy tail common for Tony. And he was happy there. I mean, there's some fish, the size of his tail, size of his pecs, everything. He really is blown away, and that fish is still in there as well. He done well, Tony, for the time he done on there. He's a good angler. But he was fishing, I think he was getting them out of a swim called the White Fence there, and he was doing all right. He was getting his fish. And here he is. I'm sorry because these lads asked me not to put him up, you know, but this fish is not, no one's seen this one as it goes. Now this is King Fungus. This is Tony with a king. It's the dream fish for all us Raysbury anglers nowadays. You know, probably one of the hardest fish around to catch. Really is, unbelievably, hardly ever gets caught. And he caught him. And I played a bit of a part in the capture and all, because he was down there for a few days and he kept phoning me up and for a bit of encouragement. And I sort of told him there was a northwesterly wind picking up, and he went and fished where he thought the northwesterly wind would push the fish. And the following morning he catches his dream carp. But this fish has got a bit of a curse on it, we think. So anyone who catches his fish, like since Tony caught his fish, he's hardly fished at all. The following week he met this girl and she stopped him fishing, and we've found this with this fish. If you catch this one, you either give up carp fishing, you break your leg or whatever, you know, it's pretty much like that. It really is. This is another amazing picture. This is looking down the North Lake. I think this is from the hidden swim, looking down towards the, that's a rocky barge there, where Terry caught Mary, 55 pound. That's Springgate's Point. There's a little island out in front of the turfs and that. This is a lovely area of the lake. Really do love this area, you know. I really wish that I could spend more time at Raysbury. But this year I was pretty lucky. My wife decided again that she was going to go on holiday to see her mum and take the kids with her. So I had like 10 days at Raysbury, and for 2 weeks I was absolutely buzzing, I was. But it's a funny old place. I found the fish, within a few days I found the fish, and they were out in front of this hidden swim, or band swim I think it's called. Anyway, but I just couldn't catch them. I had 4 rods. One of my friends phoned me up, he said, oh my God, I've just seen 4 fish come. I said to him, I've seen 4 fish come out at once, and they were all over me like a rash, but I just couldn't catch them. It really was a pig, you know, and that's just so typical for there. It's deep, it's full of natural food, and it's really hard, and I was struggling this session, but they were jumping all over me. Then I decided to move into the South Lake, because I realised that I can't catch these fish in the North Lake. They really are uncatchable. They must be on some sort of fly hatch or something. So then I moved into the South Lake, and here I am out in the South Lake. It was a bit of a mad one really, because the hotter it gets at Raysbury, the more gypsies turn up. And that day there was hundreds of them out on the lake. They were all sunbathing around me, and there was all these ladies coming past me with like brightly coloured hair and, you know, with Irish accents, and they were all out there. But I loved it. And this is the old King Fungus in the water. I found him about halfway through the session. I found him, and he'd just sit in a snag. He just wouldn't come out. He just wouldn't come out. I watched him for days. I was just sitting there with him. There was another 40 common with him as well. And I was just sitting there watching him, and I could see every bit of him. So I started taking photos of him. I just thought, right, I ain't going to catch you, I'm going to take photos of you. So I was just rowing my boat right into the snag and just taking loads of pictures of him. So it was pretty amazing, really. I didn't catch him. But then I realised I ain't really got a chance of catching this fish. So what I'd done is I went off again, because this fish was just living in the snag. He weren't coming out. I'm not going to fish in the snags for him. So I went off again. And I went into another part of the lake, because he's just a maze. The place is such a maze of different swims and bays. I went into another area. Anyway, I started baiting up this little area in the North Lake. This is, my wife's still away. She's only got a couple of days now before she's coming back. So I'm getting a bit desperate for a fish. So I take one of my rods out in the water, and I'm using a boat, and when I look round, my rod slid down off of a large bank into 20 foot, and I've lost my rod. So now I go back to where the line is, I get the line back, I start ripping all the line back, trying to get my rod back, but it's stuck, and I was absolutely just thought, this place is just a curse. Every day something happens, it's just a nightmare. So anyway, I've lost this rod, and it wasn't even my rod, it was my mate's rod. So I'm thinking, oh, what am I going to do? And anyway, I just went, see this swim, I'm moving, you're a curse. I'd been putting a little bit of sweet corn in another area throughout my trip. And I walked round there that morning, cursing the swim that I'd just been in, cursing that I'd lost the rod, cursing that king fungus wouldn't eat the bait and the fish in the band swim wouldn't go down on the bottom, and just thinking, this lake's pointless. And then I walked round and I looked down in the margins, and there was a load of sweet corn down there from the night before, and it had all gone. About 50 grains I must have been, like a couple of handfuls of corn, and it was all gone. And I thought, right, I'm going to come round. Now this swim was totally, it was just bushes. It weren't a swim, it was pretty much put your head through and you could see this little bit there that I'd been baiting. It was all cleaned off and that. So I went round there, I had a jumper on each arm, I wrapped them around my arms, and I ripped down loads of brambles just so I could get one rod in. Anyway, I got my rod ready, got it forward, got it loaded down there, just a couple of grains of corn onto this clear bit, covered everything over. It was a brilliant way I'd done it. I sunk my line, I got loads of twigs and all crap and all that, and put it all round the front. So it was all totally, everything was covered over, and it was brilliant, just one rod. And I sat up the bank and I was licking my wounds. I'd been there for about an hour and I was just thinking, I don't think I'll come back to this lake. It's just, I love to catch a fish out of it, but it's just absolutely just killing me. And then about 10 minutes later, I just heard my buzzer ripping off. And I pulls into this fish and my heart's jumping. And I'm playing this carp and it's going mental, and I see it hit the surface, I see it's a common, and it's rolling and it's battling, and in the end I gets it in the net and I'm screaming out, yes, yes! I worked so hard for it. And then I picks it up out of the water, I slipped, and my rib went right through my bank stick went right through my rib and broke my rib. And Tom will tell you, who's here now, I had the biggest mark, I had a black mark. How I'm still alive, I don't know. If the bank stick didn't have the red rod rest on the back of it, it would have gone straight through me and I would have been dead with a 30-pound carp on top of me. You know, flapping around, I'd probably been dead with a 30, but anyway, I lived. And that was it. That was it. I was blown to bits, you know, really worked hard for the fish, worked hard, I've been there all trip, and I just really, really tried hard, and I got him going, and that's what I caught, you know, and just all, it's nothing to do with size, you know, I caught bigger fish, you know, and everything, but when you catch one, you know, and you work hard for it like that, it really does make a massive difference. One of the red wine comments. And so this was it, and I was absolutely blown away, and I want to get over there now and catch another one, I really do. And I tell you what, we're coming to the end now. I just want to ask anyone if there's any questions here, because we're coming right to the end now. Has anyone got any questions?
Straight back to some of the stories,
yeah.
Obviously, some of the stuff you've done over the years is the old now that you would never do again.
Yeah, loads of it.
Obviously, some dangerous sort of thing.
Of course. I mean, I tell you what, when we were fishing Yateley, me and my mate, we read about it in the book, we used to swim our baits out in the middle of the night. You know, buckets of particles in the middle of the night. And things we used to do were unbelievable, really. You'd never do now. You'd never be allowed to do any of it, you know. But in them days, we just done it. I remember, you'll read in the book, you'll read some of the other stuff that was going on, what we were doing, you know, to catch a carp in them days. I used to walk my baits out. I'm well known in Essex, totally mad. In November, I'll be swimming baits out in November. And yeah, so. But anyway, that's it, and we're back. And if there's some more books here, if anyone wants any, you're welcome to have them, yeah? And I hope you enjoy reading them. Thank you.